I still need to back to this. Those variances are last. Can I move this thing, Jason, over here and then put that other screen up?
You mean James?
James.
Hey, Jay. Three of us in there. Ready.
Good, get the pressure on, we good? We need the camera on. In your office. Oh.
You get out, my door is locked, you have the keys.
Quite ready? We are ready.
We're ready.
Is the camera on? I don't see myself. Got a red light.
You what?
I don't think the camera's on.
I see you.
Oh, you see that? Oh, okay. Okay, we've worked through some technical difficulties. We apologize for starting this a little bit late here, but we will get started. So we'll call this meeting to order. Notice was posted with the open meeting law. You have a copy of that, okay? Secretary, if she'll read us the notice of public hearing.
Notice of public hearing, State of Wisconsin, County of Burnett, Monday, July 12, 2021, at 6 p.m. at the Burnett County Government Center in Room 165, Town of Neenah, Siren, Wisconsin, regarding the following. Variance number 2117, Drakakis and Leach. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Jackson, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Angela Drakakis and Joseph Leach have made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances as follows. To construct an addition on a structure which is less than 35 feet from the lake setback on Pine Lake, and said addition also being less than 75 feet from the lake setback of North Sand Lake, located at 27895 Kavoric Road in the RR1 zoning district, Lot 1, Volume 18, page 252, Section 254015. Variance 2118, Graham. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Union, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Bill Graham has made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances as follows. To construct a garage at a reduced setback of 20 feet from the rear lot line located at 8484 Beach Street in the RR1 zoning district, the west 50 feet of the subdivided portion of Block 4 in Lakeview Heights Plat, Section 364017. Variance 2119, Espelin. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Union, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Lawrence Espelin has made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances as follows. To construct a dwelling at a reduced wetland setback located on Little Yellow Lake on the parcel with tax ID 25076 in the RR1 zoning district, Lot 6, CSM Volume 16, page 275, Section 254017. Variance 2120, Cornelison. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Siren, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Paul Cornelison has made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use Code of Ordinances as follows. To leave a garage which was constructed without a land use permit, which does not meet the required side and rear setbacks, and expansion of a non-conforming structure more than 25%, located at 24724-035 in the RR1 zoning district, Lot 9, CSM Volume 3, page 182, Section 53816. Variance 2121, Stopples. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Oakland, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Richard Stopples has made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances as follows. To leave a sports court which was constructed without a land use permit, which doesn't meet the required side setback and which doesn't meet the required setback to the center line of a private road located on Devil's Lake at 27449 Doriot Lane in the RR1 zoning district, lot 5, CSM volume 16, page 226, section 35, 40, 16.
Thank you. We have approval for the agenda order.
Motion to approve the agenda order.
I second that.
I guess you can saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. Then we've got, meeting procedures. The board members have visited the sites. Public comments on other than the scheduled hearings at the beginning here will be limited to 3-minute time limit. Hearing is being recorded, so we ask that everyone, only one person speak at a time. The board asks that one person from the announced variance be designated by the applicant to present their case before the board. The board will then ask for public comments and any received correspondence from local authorities or neighbors concerning the announced variance. Then the board will close that portion of the hearing and deliberate amongst ourselves, asking any questions to clarify items of concern. The vote will be taken before moving on to the next variance. Applicant, local officials, and DNR shall receive within 30 days a letter summarizing the hearing, also including information on applicant's rights to appeal the decision in circuit court within 30 days. Any person aggrieved by this decision, or taxpayer, or any officer, department, board of review, or bureau of the county may within 30 days after filing of this decision in the office of the Board of Adjustment, commence an action in circuit court seeking remedy available by circuit court. With that, just give us a minute to get our paperwork up and we will get started. First one is variance 21, Rocket and Leach. Are they on? Do we have the online?
Yes, this is Joseph Leach.
Paperwork here. Okay, if you could give us a summary of what you're proposing here.
I can. We're applying for the variance, basically because we need more room. Our family is growing. I have another daughter that moved back from the East Coast. And me and my wife are recently retired, and we would like to retire to our cabin. Let's see here. Back in 1988, we got a variance, number 306, that allowed us to build and not adhere to the Pine Lake setback. In 2011, Jim Flanagan and myself measured out the property at 75 feet back from the high water mark of Sand Lake. That's changed now, I understand. I guess there is some erosion. Obviously, the water levels that we've had are quite high. Jim also put down flags with me for the wetland on Pine Lake. So, 10 years ago, I started building. Everything went smooth. I've been a very good landowner, I believe, for the last 10 years. The board members that went out and looked at our site seemed that we have not let any runoff into the wetland. We haven't cleared any beach on Sand Lake according to all the setbacks and the laws concerning lakeshore. We've been good land stewards, I believe. I've noticed from the surveying that Mark has done, Wagner, that the addition that we're asking for the variance is actually going to be farther away from the wet area that we, Pine Lake, that we have right now with the existing structure. I think, and I believe, that we meet the 3-step variance test. And I'm asking the board for this variance at this time. The last thing I would like to say is that when I received the paperwork from the county I noticed that the shed that my son-in-law had purchased for me needed a permit, and I was unaware that a shed on blocks needed a building permit or a permit. So I asked the board if we're granted this variance. Certainly, I will do whatever it takes to make amends on that as far as getting a permit or moving the shed. We can come to an agreement on that, what is acceptable and what isn't. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Like I said, I'd like to go back. I'm a good land steward. I believe if we do get this variance, that there will be no problem with runoff on the wet areas. Very little impact on the property that we have. And I asked to get the variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Question, what is the addition going to be? What are the rooms? And how, is it one story or?
It's going to be 2-story. We're trying to make a small impact. We don't want to be pushing it out farther and farther across that area. So we decided to go with a 2-story with 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, a screen porch, and an office. I have 2 son-in-laws and a daughter that do work from home, and this would be a great way for them to spend more time with us at the cabin. They could come up on Fridays, leave maybe on Monday nights, and it would just work out really well that way. Right now, in the cabin that I built 10 years ago, we have 3 small bedrooms, and it just gets incredibly crowded when we have the families all come up. So we went with the 2-story design, less of a footprint on the property, and it just seemed to work with the existing cabin.
And then what is the pitch of the roof going to be? How tall is the roof going to be?
It's going to be I think it's going to be basically at about the same, maybe 10-12 roof, I believe. Going to be approximately as high as what we have right now. I don't know the exact measurements. Pretty sure it's going to be right around right below 30 feet. I think that sounds right. If I recall from 10 years ago on my old blueprints.
Wouldn't be any higher than the roof on the existing house.
It might be, in the plans that Dan sent me from ABC Lumber, on his plans, it looked like it could be the same or maybe a little bit higher, a little bit taller. Yeah, I really don't have that information for you right now.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody else speaking on this?
No.
No?
We just have Representative Mark Crowley on the line if you want to talk to him about.
Yeah, this is Mark Krause. I'm here, but I don't know if there's anything else to add that Joe hasn't spoken of already. As you know, the lake elevation was high. It was at the 100-year flood level when we a foot below it, and there's been erosion because of the high water the last 3 years, and so that's created some of the issues along both shorelines. So that's about all I can see to add, I guess. So.
Okay. Thank you. And do we have any letters on this one or any correspondence?
This one, we have none.
Okay. Okay, well, I think we can close. Any questions here?
Not at the current moment.
So we could close this portion of the hearing then, and we'll deliberate amongst ourselves, and you will hear yet our decision here shortly. I think unique property limitations is certainly the spot in between the two lakes and narrowness of it and wetlands and all that are the unique property limitations. I don't think that we have any harm to public interest. You won't visually see it from the lake near as much as if that cabin was built 3 stories up. Better deal. And out a little bit, or, you know, go way up. The unnecessary hardship, you know, need more space in the cabin and that. Green porch, if you're living in that wetland, probably need it. Everything that's there has good drainage. Gutters and everything on the building and stuff like that. So as long as we require rain gutters on the structure, I think we'd be okay.
So part of this, shed to be removed or get a land use permit? Should all-
So we saw the outstanding issues.
Said to remove on land use permit obtained by 10/1/2021, also needs to meet all appropriate setbacks and floodplain requirements. That's in reference, yeah, right, Jason?
Correct.
Just for personal, those sheds with kids, do we currently at the county consider them structures? Even if they're portable?
Yep.
We want permits for them.
If it's over 100 square feet in size, it needs to have a permit. And
Okay.
even if it's under 100 square feet in size, you don't need a permit for it, but the ordinance says you still have to meet all the setbacks. So you wouldn't be able to put it near a lake or something, because you say, I don't need a permit for it, it still has to follow all the setbacks.
Correct, I'm just stating that because common knowledge, a lot of the rumor, and I'd say my actual opinion was others, they're always told, oh, these are portable structures, you don't need to contact the, just wanted to clarify for more.
Well, no, just
Or get a land.
or get a permit for it.
Or get the permit and meet the
It meets
setback
the setback, so they might have to move it.
and the floodplain requirement.
Yeah.
Exactly what they've got listed there is how we should speak that. The shoreline vegetation requirements. It's pretty minimal there.
Yeah, because I mean, they have so much frontage.
Yeah.
You get 35, well, and then double.
Yeah.
You can say they got frontage on Pine and frontage on Sand Lake, so I think as long as the addition, they don't do a whole lot of cutting past the addition, I think they'd be okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't probably worry about it.
But if we get the gutters and stuff in there and the rain guard to cover that,
Yeah.
I think that we fix that situation.
When it's referenced to the 35 feet, Jason,
Yep.
what are we talking? Because I know we had conversation last week that that's not the, golden metric.
Yep.
Are we,
Well, you get to have 35 feet per 100 feet of frontage.
okay, this was a different thing then, that's why the 35 confused me for a second, so I'm like, no, that's, then that makes sense.
Well, that's,
I was looking at the distances from the water,
oh,
that's what I was referencing, I thought that.
there's two different. Yeah. 35 for an addition, is a number that, I'm almost surprised the state didn't send us a letter on this one, like they did last month, because that was kind of a similar one.
Yeah, looking at the map, am I seeing 23.5? No, that's a building structure. The water's way out there, doesn't even have a scale to it on, it doesn't.
We're almost 75 feet.
You're 75 feet from North Sand Lake.
Correct.
The problem is the wetland complex that's attached to Pine Lake, you could argue that that's.
But I just want to make sure we're not violating that 35-foot mark from the wetland. That would go back to the other part, or what is because there wasn't a measurement on the map, and that's why when I read the application with that 35 feet, I had some confusion about it, and I want to make sure we clarify.
Yeah.
So that if you look at the proposed addition, which is 23.5 by 12 feet, that 14.81 that goes to the wetland mark, but that's not the same applicable 35 feet.
Could be.
Okay, well, that's the confusion, because we had conversation last month that 35 feet, that's it, from the water mark.
That's for the ordinary high water mark, yeah.
Yep.
The wetlands are,
Well, wetlands a 40-foot setback. The problem is right here, I guess we don't know if it's technically wetland or navigable.
Correct, and that can be argued by engineers and DNR people
Yeah.
back and forth. I've
Yeah.
got some experience with that, but I get that. Okay.
Yep.
So then, that being said, they didn't send us a letter on this, DNR.
Correct.
Okay. Good to me then.
any other questions? If not, we have a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the addition. Here. As shown on their drawing. That a roof pitch the same or approximately the same height as the existing roof. Then, we will also ask that they have rain gutters added to this new addition appropriately. And also, according to the staff comments, we will expect the shed is either to be removed or the land use permit by 1 of 2021. We'll have to meet all appropriate setbacks and floodplain requirements. And
Required gutters.
yeah, I think I said that.
Okay.
Yep, required gutters.
And the required gutters.
And the rain guard.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Motion, I will second that motion.
Any further discussion? Ian?
Aye.
Aye. Carried, thank you. Okay, you have your variance, and, just contact the zoning office on their regular business hours, and they'll. Okay, next one, just a second here, get our paperwork. Whoa, look at that. That's on video. Yeah. Okay, next one is variance, 21-18, Graham. Do we have them online? Are you?
I do not have them online, but I do have my, here, just one moment, there it is.
Do we have anybody speaking for Graham?
I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. This is Bill Graham. I'm applying for a variance for a setback from 40 feet to 20 feet in the back of my property there on 8484 Beach. Because of the slope of the hill, makes it really difficult. I would have to get to the top of the hill and go right into the building with no approach at all, really. So, and I want to be able to store all my stuff inside. It'd just be a lot neater and a lot safer and stuff like that. But that's really all I'm trying for.
There's no living quarters or anything in this?
No.
What's the height of the garage walls and the roof?
The walls will be 12 feet. It's a 50 by 30 shed from Jansen's. It's just like those steel buildings they have. That one in the back of their yards. It's almost exactly like what I'm going to get, but a little longer. It'll have a. I'm not sure on the roof peak. It's not that steep of a roof, so I would imagine it's about 14.5 feet, something like that.
Like a 412 pitch or something, 412 or 612?
Yeah, something like that. I can't be sure, but I looked on the paperwork here and I don't see anything for that.
And then where are the garage doors gonna be?
I'm only gonna have 2 doors and they'll be facing the street. One's gonna be a 12 feet high by, well, it's just under 12 feet high, by 18 feet. It was gonna be smaller, but, the shortage of all the materials, that's what I could come up with. And then, a service door will be right next to it.
And what street, Malone Drive or Beach Street?
That'll be on Beach.
Beach Street.
Yep. That'd be on the, west side of Beach or southwest side.
So the drawing here shows a 28 by 30 proposed building with an 8 by 30 something out front. What's that?
Well, that's the lower end. Mark is there with the drawings.
Yeah, I can help with that, Dennis. This is Mark Krause speaking. The garage is the back building on the south side of Beach Street, across the road, and we have a space for the proposed cabin up in the main building area there.
Got it.
And the biggest problem out there is these streets were not put where they were platted to be, and it's really carved up Mr. Graham's property with the 2 streets going through it and not being built where they're supposed to be, and so it limited his areas. And we met with the township to verify what they needed for road right-of-ways on there to lock in the spots. And originally we thought we might need to do it for the cabin too, but they were good with the 50-foot platted street from Malone Drive, which comes from the lake, and for Beach Street, which cuts across there at 60 feet, and that's what we've got shown on the map.
Okay.
So the 28 by 30 with the 8-foot porch, that's I think a future.
Future development design, okay, that's what confused me on site, and then, yeah,
You're right now just dealing with the one at the very south end.
just south of parcel A listed on the map. Gotcha.
Violations on existing shed connected to sewer and water. Unknown what this structure is since no land use permit exists for it. What's that
Yeah,
about?
I put a little building on there just so I could use it while I was there. It has a little bathroom in it, but I'll disconnect that whole thing and then try to get it up to code, or if I can't get it up to code, I'll just get rid of it. It's about where I'm going to build my house, and that's for next year.
Built the house, the shed would go probably.
Yes.
Or move, located.
I would just get rid of it probably.
Definitely unique property limitation.
Yeah. Any questions, you guys? Do we have any correspondence from anybody?
I have a letter. There should be a letter there from Sonny, the neighbor that's the farmer in the back, in case you wanted to see it.
I haven't seen that letter. Do you have a copy of that letter?
I do have a copy.
Can you read that?
I could send it somewhere. I don't know where to send it though.
Email to me. You can email to Jason.
Okay, I can do that. I don't know if I can do that while I'm on the phone though. I don't know if I'm not talented with the phone.
How long?
Hello, David. This is Mark Krause speaking, and I can read the letter to you while he's sending it or whatever, if that would help. It was Town and Union Town Board, Union Township, Burnett County, Wisconsin. We have no objection to Mr. Graham constructing a garage with the variance so stated. to construct a garage at a reduced setback to 20 feet from the rear lot line at 8484 Beach Street in the RR1 zoning district, the west 50 feet of the unsubdivided portion of Block 4, Lakeview Heights, Section 364017. Thank you, Miles and Constant L. Spafford Jr., 27329 Spafford Road, Webster, Wisconsin, and signed Miles and Constant Spafford.
Okay, thank you.
I can send that when I figure out how to do it, but I can do it as soon as I'm off the phone.
Fine, that's fine, and then we'll have a copy.
Just send it to me, then we'll get it in the file.
Perfect, thank you.
Is this Jason or?
Yeah, Jason, yep.
Okay.
With no other questions here, so across, so, okay, well, we'll close this portion of the hearing then, and we'll deliberate amongst ourselves, and you will hear the, decision yet shortly.
Thank you very much.
This one here, you know, the unique property limitations are certainly there. We garage, we said, in this climate, we need a garage. We meet our 20-foot setback off the edge of the road there, so maintain that.
Yeah, 'cause that's, I think the driveway actually continues back that way a little bit, as if it's more of a path.
Yeah.
It's not, but that's just not really.
Not contrary to public interest, you know, I think the criteria can be met here on this one.
It'll be up on that hill, so it'll be.
You're not gonna see it.
Right.
And it's down the road, that's what you got all along there.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that one actually,
Yeah, the violations on this one was just the shed. Certified survey map to be recorded by 12/1/21 to combine the parcels. Land use permit to be obtained prior to constructing the building. Sanitary system service and reported to the county, and the existing shed which is connected to sewer and water be brought into compliance with current codes.
I'll make a motion to approve this variance with the 4 recommendations listed, or that you just mentioned. Certified survey map, land use permit, and sanitary system, and the existing shed to be brought up compliant.
We want to add no living quarters
Yes.
and 12-foot sidewalls.
So, yeah, so no living quarters in the garage. With the 12-foot sidewalls.
The only other thing was doors to face Beach Street, but that might have been confused on which building was what.
Yeah.
So,
The doors, well, they're showing it here, we've got it here. The doors open to Beach Street.
and then do you want to say something like pitch not to exceed 612?
Yeah.
Then I think that's all the notes that I had to.
Motion, do we have a second?
I second it.
Second, and we have any further discussion, that's what we should have discussed. And then, we got,
No living quarters, 12-foot sidewalls, 6-12 pits.
thank you. So that, the motion, second. Favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay, you have your variance, and you just got to contact, Jason in normal working hours, and, yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So our next one is variance 21-19 Espelin. Are they online?
That number from
Espelin,
this
are you
month.
there?
I am here.
Oh, great.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we hear you. If you give us kind of a summary
Thank you.
proposing, that'd be great.
Thank you very much. I'll try to speak loudly. Lawrence Espel, my wife Debbie, is here with me as well. Thank you for your consideration of our request. You have the site and the drawings in front of you, and I'll just quickly run through the 3 criterion. To say that this property is unique is an understatement. With the road on the top of the hill, the steep slopes, lots of wetlands, very unique property, very beautiful, obviously. What we're proposing, we believe, would create no harm to any public interest that we're aware of. And in regards to unnecessary hardship, I'd just like to cite a couple of things. The slope of the hill is unusually high. Partway through the hill, there is a ravine that over time has cut to make that ravine, which is clearly an obstacle to building. We are aging. My wife Debbie and I were in our late 60s. So we would like to build a one-story or have the living space on one floor so that in future years we can easily have ingress and egress. There are sites that are already available but what we would like to do is to make the highest and best use of the property. And with the request in place, we want to be able to have a clear view of the lake, and also we would like to respect the privacy of our neighbors who are under the sites that have been in place for a while. It would be very, very close to the other neighbors. So those are our reasons: aging in space, slope, ravines. So we're asking, I believe, for about a 10-foot setback. Mark, if you have any other comments, now might be a good time.
Okay, this is Mark Krause from Wagner Surveying speaking. We've done the site plan for them out there. One of the biggest hard issues was trying to determine where that actual wetland edge is. This site was delineated many, many years ago by the DNR, and we still had the positions from that. I know Jason was out there, and we really ended up tracing an elevation out there, which is the 932.6 line, which would correspond probably pretty well with the ordinary high water mark on Little and Yellow Lake. The 933 is the 100-year flood, which is just a half a foot above that, and that is well below the toe of the bank of everything out there. And so this is out of the floodplain. And so that's what we ended up using for the setbacks, showing both the 30 and the 40-foot offsets from those, from that location. And if there's any other questions on the locations, that's basically what we have shown on the drawing. So.
Which plan is it? I see a couple, proposed one, proposed two, last one there.
July 9th.
Okay.
And I do apologize about that. That was part of the problem with getting the exact footprints or the setbacks figured out from the wetland line. And we did end up getting an architect involved with some of the design work, especially with that ravine coming down the hill, to make sure that they'd be able to get the structure to work there and have the retaining walls or the drainage pattern going around the end of the building for drainage and runoff purposes there too.
Are there going to be two garages, one attached to the house and then another one on the way in? Is that what I'm seeing on this last?
Yes. Yes.
It looks like the one on the house would just be a one-car garage with it being 16 feet wide. Yep.
And so the second garage, detached garage, is that how high are the sidewalls and the pitch of the roof, and no living quarters in it? Is that true?
That was not part of the variance.
Oh, that's not part of the variance?
Nope.
Okay.
Because that can meet all the requirements.
Okay, good.
The proposed garage, we're not worried if we're talking about.
Just like the house.
Yeah, correct, I'll make
Okay,
sure.
good. Okay. Okay. Any other questions for them? None being, do we have any correspondence from neighbors or?
There was a letter from Mike Nelson. I can read it, it's a short one, Kathy reads a long one. Mike Nelson, we received this on July 8th. I have owned the property adjacent to this parcel for approximately 42 years, with the exception of a higher piece of land within the parcel where a trailer has been located for the past few years. Most of the rest of that area generally is very wet. This year has been an exception with the lack of rain. One location may be suitable for a dwelling, however, the rest of the parcel, in my opinion, is too wet most years.
Okay, so that's the only correspondence. Any other questions on this one? So it's a one-story house. Gonna have a walk.
We're currently, we're working with the architect. The plan is to have a one-story with a second story. That's still being determined.
Okay.
There is we're planning to have a two-story building. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. There are no records of violations of record here on this one, so. Okay, no more questions, then we'll close this portion of the hearing and deliberate amongst ourselves, and you'll have a determination shortly.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
So on the criteria, I think that development property fairly minimal. The size lot that's there. Certainly got unique shape to this one with all the sea field and wetlands and the whole thing. And you don't see it from the lake. You're so far back from the lake that you can see that contrary to public interest. Two-story high and stuff, I think we might want to control the runoff, the roof, some gutters to run to a rain garden.
We'll be sensitive.
Do we have any other comments?
I just was looking, we had some discrepancy on this map, is that
The
the?
one, yeah. If you,
Oh,
want to get it?
yeah, let's clarify that, just pretty close to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think really with this July 9th revision, it's just more of locking in where the actual wetland edge was. Mark said we were at the DNR, and then I was out there, so they were slightly different, so we were trying to come to an agreement where.
And just from this perspective, the variance we're talking about is a 40-foot offset, 30-foot offset?
Yep, so we're asking for 10 foot of relief.
From the 40. I guess that's where I wanted to double check and make sure, so that's good.
And then you had your no wetland in the staff comments, no wetland filling allowed without proper permits. Is there some filling that's going to be required there?
No, I just think with it being wetland, that it typically some owners want to fill wetlands. So I just wanted to kind of make that clear.
It is possible, but with proper permits.
Permits, just don't be filling wetlands.
We are not in a floodplain on this one.
Correct.
I'm ready.
I'll make a motion to approve variance 2119 Espelend, with these conditions, that one, proper permits be obtained prior to the construction taking place. And then two, just to note that no wetland filling will be allowed without the proper permits through DNR and county zoning if needed. And just, well, that's fine. Oh, yeah, we have gutters to a rain garden required for the structure.
Okay, so we got a motion. Do we have a second?
I think it is.
Second. Any further discussion? Being, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. We have your, variance, contact zoning office in regular business hours, and we'll take care of you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to enjoying this parcel.
Okay, next one is variance 21-20, Corneliuson. Are you there?
I'm here.
State your name and then give us your proposal.
All right, this is Paul Cornelison. I'm the property owner with the non-conforming structure. I guess 3-4 years ago, the building I had was damaged in a storm, and I was looking to update it. And the contractor I hired steered me in all sorts of wrong directions when talking about permits and size and what I could do. So the building I have is bigger than I could have added on to follow code with the non-conforming structure. It's about 300 square feet bigger than I was allowed with the 25% upgrade. But the entire building stayed on the same footprint and foundation as the old structure. It just expanded into my property. So at this point, I'm just asking for forgiveness because the building's already built.
What is the building used for?
It's just storage, workshop.
No living quarters?
No living quarters.
And it's residential use?
Yeah, I mean, it's storage for my stuff, and I do some odds and ends projects at home that I use it for.
Okay. Okay, so no questions for you guys to them. So then, do we have any correspondence?
Yeah, 2 pieces of correspondence, Ronald York, Michael Flodine.
I've got your checks handy.
Okay. You want to read your chunks and I'll read Flodine?
Okay, to whom it may concern, the garage at Fort Paul Cornelison is next to our property, his south side, north of our property. The garage has been there for many years, built by the original owner of the property. In our opinion, he has made it look better than it used to be. He did not move it closer to our line. It was built under, I assume, old ordinances, and that should be what is considered. He didn't move it, he just made it look better. Thank you, Ronald Yorchuk and Cynthia Yorchuk.
You?
And from Michael Flodine,
Who's the builder? Who is the builder?
whom it may concern, I'm a licensed contractor in the state of Wisconsin. In late, I advised Paul Corneliuson that because the building was being rebuilt in the same spot that he did not need a permit. By knowledge, storm damage rebuilds do not need a permit. Please feel free to contact me with any questions.
Okay, and that's the only correspondence we have.
Yeah, there's been, I think, well, Paul sent a letter in himself, the applicant, which should be in.
We have that, that's all part of the application. Okay, on that one. And we don't have anybody else that wants to talk?
We do, we have one, general public comment for this,
Okay.
just a minute here.
Hello.
Hello, yeah.
If you can hear me, my name is Craig Nestor. I live on 24755 Swede Road, and I'm on the back lot line of Paul's. And I have no problem with this building whatsoever. Yeah, I might also add that I was a licensed contractor for 34 years. And this fellow should have that told him that he couldn't proceed without a building permit. He should have known that, and apparently he didn't. And to sum it all up, I don't see any problem with it whatsoever. And 300 feet, would just request as his neighbor, give him some leniency here in the permit process.
Okay, thank you. Nobody else? That's it, so all the correspondence, everything's there. Okay, we'll close this portion of the hearing, and we'll deliberate amongst ourselves, and you'll hear the determination shortly. Three criteria, I think the necessary hardship, the building blew down to replace it. Really nothing unique to the lot.
No, besides, I didn't know it was a park.
Right. It certainly isn't contrary to public interest.
I can't see a harm when both neighbors currently agree to not worrying with it. We don't have an issue with discrepancy of built on lot lines. It's clearly on Paul's property, Corneliuson's. The intent of those setbacks are for really that dispute. I assume
the 10-foot is because things aren't surveyed and then there's a problem. So now, correct. And once they're surveyed, we've usually gone down to the 5 feet and we're above that here. The concern I have is that the water, you can see that the water running off and going off the property, running off his property to the south. So we really should just have roof gutters there and a gutter in there to prevent that. Keep your runoff on your own property. So, if we added that, I wouldn't have any. Already.
I just have a comment. Staff recommendations is residential personal use only. I know we referenced the comprehensive plan there, and I actually was on the committee when that 2-year process went. And from our town perspective, we actually really encouraged our private residences, if they could ever get into like contractor businesses and that at that one point there's a threshold where you need to get commercial, but it's kind of encouraged to go from residential to commercial. So it's like, just from a language perspective, and that was what the comprehensive plan was about, when we stayed in our ordinances only for private use, I find that personally as somewhat contradictory to what the process was. Now, granted, there's so much language in the comprehensive plan I may be interpreting it wrong, but I know from a town of Anderson perspective, we did talk about that specifically because it's like, we don't have many commercial businesses in our rural town that we want to try to promote some of that through the comprehensive plan. We also said we want that stuff to go to the villages because they have the resources for that. But it's more of a legal deal when we start saying that. If a small business guy starts, or he was turned into a mechanic or started making widgets in his garage, that's not private use.
You have a provision for that, though, in our ordinance, is if you want to start to do a home occupation business, you could apply for a conditional use permit to change that from a personal type use to a.
That's all I wanted to call is we're setting the requirement as personal, but he has an avenue to do that.
So they don't come in there and start some noisy business that the neighbors don't want. You're trying to. But there is an avenue to put businesses.
Nope, that makes sense, and that's just for clarification, because I know we argued should, shall, and list for hours, so I wanted to educate myself, so thanks, Jason, on that. So, I forget, do we have a motion? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve variance 2120 Corneliuson. I apologize if we got your name wrong. With these requirements, land use permit to be obtained by 9/1/2021 for the structure, not to be used as a bunkhouse or a habitable structure, to be used for residential personal use only. And if choosing to go down that road, there's a process through the county that I just mentioned. And if you could, in the variance was gutters to be contained to the south side.
Rain garden.
And rain garden.
We got a motion, we have a second?
I second.
Second, any further discussion? Dean? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay, so you have your variance, and just contact the zoning office at regular business hours.
Thank you very much.
Good to know, Jason, thanks.
Usually always a process for,
Correct, but, you know, people don't, you know, sometimes know or understand. I'm one of those sometimes.
there's lots of rules.
Only about half the wording there.
What was it? That one? No.
You know that one?
Yeah, that's the one I gave everybody.
Yeah,
Okay, so the next one is variance 21-21, Stopples. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so the proposal where we're at here. If we can have you give a summary of what you're proposing.
Yeah, I'm here, this is Richard Stopples. I'm here with my wife, Bev, and we own the property at 27449 Doriot Lane. And hopefully you've read the letter I sent. I'd just like to highlight a few of the points in the letter, and I think you probably have all been out there to see my court. The court we have or constructed was built on a court the kids used growing up. We had it for 20 years. It was a volleyball court. It was a sand court. It had structures on it. It had posts and net, and it was a true court, a big court. And we had the idea of, since the grandkids and relatives were interested in pickleball, and we play pickleball and badminton and volleyball and stuff, but we had the idea of building a sports court, and it consisted of installing a slab over the volleyball court. So the footprint was the court we had for 20 years. And the court was carefully planned and constructed openly in every way. I never hid it, you know, that I was building it. I talked to the adjacent neighbors. I talked to all the people in the Webster Pickleball Club. I had open discussions with the utility companies, contractors, material suppliers. It was never meant to be covered up in any way. I had built my cabin 20 years ago when there weren't a lot of permits required. There weren't a lot of inspections with electrical and plumbing, and I just, in no way, in my mind, after talking to everybody that thought that I needed a permit, I just, to me, it was a concrete slab, and had I known, I wouldn't have hesitated to get one. I can honestly say that. At this time, I can honestly say the court is an overwhelming success. It's thoroughly enjoyed by our grandkids, our relatives, our friends, neighbors, and a lot of the local residents. The teachers, the school superintendent. I built it in a way that it fit into the environment. It drains perfectly. We haven't had any problem with drainage. It's really a nice looking court. It looks cabiny. The guy that surfaced the court
put it on the cover of his brochure to advertise his business. It's a very good-looking court. I'd also like to say that I'm the one responsible. I'll take the blame. I want to apologize, but we want to keep our court. And that's about all I have to say.
Okay, any other questions here? Oh, do we have anybody else to speak on this one?
Yes. Mark, Brotland, this woman here.
Can you hear me?
Mark?
Yeah, can you hear me?
State your name and,
Yeah. Yep, sure thing. My name is Mark Bratland. First of all, thanks for letting me speak for just a minute. My statements will be brief. Together with my wife, I am owner of the property directly affected by the side setback variance. Our address is 27441 Doriot Lane. I want to be clear that we are in support of keeping the sports court in place. Specifically, regarding the side setback variance, together with the Stopples, we've developed and executed a written agreement that addresses use of space, liabilities, and potential property sales. I don't have anything else to add other than I'm willing to field any questions you might have, and thank you again for the time.
Thank you. Any correspondence on this one?
So we have, email from court counsel on this one, and we have a letter from Judy and Art Peterson. So,
Can read Art Peterson one right here.
okay.
All right, the email from Art Peterson says, to whom it may concern, we live at 2451 Stone Road, Webster, Wisconsin. Our property sits adjacent to the east of Mr. Stopples' property. It has been 3 years since the construction began at 27449 Doriot Lane. Why didn't Mr. Stoppel obtain a permit prior to construction? Good question. This is not Mr. Stoppel's first interaction with the Land Services Department, nor is it his first violation. He knows the proper regulations and procedures to follow. He chose not to follow them. Richard Stopples has been a cabin owner on Devil's Lake for multiple years. Mr. Stopples has had previous interactions with Jason Town and certainly knew who to contact if he had any questions or concerns prior to breaking any ground. So not to. There are several homes along Doriot Lane, the private road referred to. We have several questions regarding this proposal. Will the center line of Doriot Lane be altered to reflect the required setback as per zoning code? If this occurs, how will this affect the other residents along Variance? Will Mr. Stopples give up part of his residential property and designate it for private road and permanent easement setback? If Doriot Lane is altered, can the setback possibly encroach on others' property, i.e. ours? Another concern in this proposal is the side setback. The sports court or pickleball court was built over the neighboring property line, not just within the setback. It is actually over the property line. This creates huge issues drawn up between the current owners. However, what happens when either of those properties are sold? This creates huge issues for future owners. This is not the correct way of doing things. This should have been built within its own property line. Why wasn't it? If the proper permit would have been applied and secured in 2018, these issues would have been resolved before construction. We are holding others accountable for obtaining permits in Burnett County prior to construction. This applies to personal and businesses, both old and new. There is no excuse for what Richard Stopples did in 2018. His attitude seems to be of such, do as I please and seek contrition later. He 100% knew in 2018 he needed a permit. That one was required. It was asked of him and his contractors. Mr. Stopples stated he had one and would produce a copy of it. When he failed to do so, Jason Town was contacted in September 2018. Here we are 3 years later. Why? Because Richard Stopples refuses to adhere and comply with Burnett County regulations, not the first or second time. When will enough be enough? Why does Burnett County continue to tolerate such blatant disregard for the regulations set forth? Why do we continue to allow individuals to ignore and violate the rules the rest of us adhere to? We need to start making examples of those violators, especially those who are repeat offenders. Mr. Stopples needs to be held accountable for his refusal to comply and adhere to our county's proper protocol. If this variance is granted, the Land and Use Committee is in jeopardy of setting forth a very scary precedent of allowing individuals to not obtain permits and seek variances later without reprisal. What is the purpose of having a permit? Mr. Stopples never obtained the proper permit to build a sports park in 2018. He knew better then, and he is playing the system now. We are strongly suggesting the Land and Use Committee to stand on principle, do the right thing for the right reason. Please reject this proposal. Sincerely, Judy and Art Peterson.
And then we got another letter.
From Court Counsel, was in reference to a question I guess Dennis was asking about a variance when it's not on their property. And Dave Grindell reply, I don't know of any basis to grant a variance on a neighbor's property based upon the application by an adjacent landowner. I have also reviewed the agreement, and while I question its enforceability, it can be revoked basically at any time. I think that really helps their cause. Dave Grindell.
And any other emails or any other letters, correspondence from anybody? Nothing from the town? We don't have anybody else on the
Town board didn't weigh in.
Rousey, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Do you have any comments on this one?
Nothing other than the fact that the Doriot Lane driveway has been in place in the same place for many, many years, and so I don't think it affects the alignment there at all. And I know they have it buffered pretty well with their bushes and shrubs around there for protection. The lady that complained does not have any access to that driveway. Their driveway is on Stone Road side, so it doesn't really affect them as long as there's ample room to stay within the easement on the Doriot Lane side there. So the 66-footer was put in there for a potential town road, which will never happen because it's not a through. I mean, it could happen, but it's not a through road, so it does dead end. So it is not a through road by any means there either. And I believe there's 2 more houses beyond this one.
Okay.
And I think all the dimensions are shown on the detailed drawings on where it is actually located, and the agreement between the neighbors would cover their liability, et cetera. And I believe they have an agreement in place also that would remove the court or adjust the lot lines if needed, if either property owner sold.
Okay, thank you. Any questions here? So we'll close this portion of the hearing then. We'll deliberate amongst ourselves and you will hear the determination shortly. We start. 3 criteria. Unnecessary hardship is self-created. Contrary to public interest would be the encroachment, fairly good encroachment into the 66-foot area. So that is good. Meet property limitations, we've got that. The question to Grindell was, can we grant a variance when it encroaches to somebody else's property? And the answer was no, I didn't think you can. That's the problem, you can't pass a variance that's going to cause problems.
And that's the agreement he has in the packet with the other
Yeah,
neighbors.
the agreement didn't work out, but
Not a variance.
between them, and it's not a variance, and it's not an easement, he doesn't own the property, that doesn't work. That doesn't cover legally what to do there. And plus, we don't meet the unnecessary hardship. Another one that Grindel said, you pickleball court, because you can't meet the unnecessary hardship of the ball court. But this one is just one of those that hands are tied to what we could do with it.
And the town never weighed in on the right of way, because obviously it's a private drive at this time.
Yep, they did not send any correspondence.
Because again, when we look at intent, the point is obviously to save right of way and road access and the emergency access for these parcels. Obviously a terrible situation, but
We also have to address, even if we don't pass this, the other,
Those are other violations that the building office will take care of. We're only addressing pickleball court here. If we were going to approve it, we could ask them to do that,
right.
but that's not. So if there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
what is the staff requirements, Jason? I mean, like I said, this is a tough one, right? You can read the 5 things. I don't know where
Well,
we're
we
going.
aren't addressing those. Those are other violations against the property, but we're not addressing them in this issue.
Okay.
Unless we made them conditions on an approval. Staff will have to,
So you're recommending, we don't have a motion on the floor.
We don't have a motion, so I'm just looking for a motion.
What is the process? I mean, because I think, again, I apologize for being new to the committee. No motions deny stuff or kind of, maybe word stuff is what.
Motion to deny the variance is requested.
Then what's the process then, as it goes through here for this? Because obviously when you have cabins and structures that are built, I've heard that we've required removal of cabins in the past as precedent for certain aspects of violations. And this is what this hearing is about. There's a situation where a pickleball court is encroaching 17.38 feet into the road right away. Correct.
And also onto the neighbor's.
And onto the neighbor's property.
So what would be the next step? So if this committee made a motion to deny the request based on the fact that it probably doesn't meet the hardship that was created and those type of things.
Yep.
What we would do then, we would write a decision letter, and then you guys would sign that next month, then he would have 30 days, or anyone would have 30 days to appeal it. And then if no appeal happens after that 30 days, then we would order it to be removed.
In the appeal process, like I said, I don't think it's met the requirements, as you stated, the 3 things that we look at unnecessary hardship. Like I said, a lot of locations that I don't feel that has been met. Because he didn't know he had been at a permit 2018 or whenever the construction started. Public interest, I don't see that. He's got letters from his neighbors saying they're somewhat okay. Neighbors across the street don't like it. Our surveyor testified that it didn't matter. They have road access to the thing. We didn't hear from the town from whether or not it would be their liability to assume the road at some point, but it would have to come to a town road standard, which is why we have the 4-rod easement that was plotted out originally. To me, that's the condition that is a failure.
I think we also have to consider that the council, corporation council, said that he doesn't know of any basis to grant a variance on a neighbor's property based on the application by the adjacent landowner. I think that's a fairly substantial reason that we need to deny it.
The legal counsel,
Correct.
they're the ones that will defend this in court.
This is Mark Krause speaking. Can I ask a question of the committee?
No, we're deliberating.
In the appeal process, would the landowner have a right to try to purchase the neighboring property and relot it before tearing the thing down? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, here's a situation.
That would probably alleviate one of the issues.
Correct.
I don't know how you would alleviate, if you're saying the 66-foot wide easement is, or is it also a difficult thing to overcome? I don't think the neighbor across the street is probably going to sell additional land. Since that was a letter in saying they were opposed to it. If you were to try to shift the easement further to...
Well, I'm saying from the town perspective is what I'm talking about. That shared gravel driveway, I don't see is there a center line measurement on it? I've got 34, oh yeah, that's 60-foot, 66-foot ingress easement. So 17.38 feet of the bracket, or whatever the court is, pickleball court, is in the road right away.
Which is
the plotted.
Third for...
Correct. And I know that, I mean, I've done town roads where the town road moved in that right. We don't technically need all 66 feet to be adequate, but I'm not that town that deals with that. I just look at it. I don't like the idea of denying it because of the thing. The road is there. To me, that's an appeal question. I would rather have restrictions on it.
According to legal counsel, you can't meet the 3 criteria that are required by law.
So then we can deny it and he can go to the appeal process.
That's right.
And then if there's, I'm just asking a question.
Unfortunately, that's all our choice we have.
Well,
I would make a motion to deny the variance as requested. We got a second.
I make a motion that we deny this.
No, I made a motion, we got a second.
I'm sorry.
Got a second, so we got a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Nope, I think that,
all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Deny.
you should just treat it as that's a quarter minute. Fine. Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
Yep, it passes.
Okay.
So, we will, write up a decision document, and we'll sign it next month. Once we file that, that starts the 30-day clock for.
Yeah. So after our meeting next month, the first Monday of the month, I think is our meeting, then you can contact zoning office appeal process. That's it. That's the last one?
That is.
Yeah, so we got a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
I second that motion.
Motion second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.